When the lawyer finished reading Grandpa's will, the room fell silent. I stood there, numb, while my cousins exchanged awkward glances and tried to suppress their smirks. Grandpa had left me only $10, just 10. The others received stocks, properties, bank accounts, even a vineyard in California. My Aunt Clara whispered to her daughter, "That's what happens when you don't stick around." My cheeks burned with shame, not because of the amount, but because of what it said. What they thought it meant. They thought I was nothing, just a failure who moved away and forgot the family. But they didn't know the truth. They didn't know I left to escape the toxicity, the constant belittling, the controlling strings attached to every gift. I had been working 2 jobs just to survive in a crumbling apartment, while they basked in wealth, vacations, and entitlement. I stared down at the crisp $10 bill handed to me by the lawyer, folded into a small envelope with my name written in Grandpa's handwriting. "He must have meant it as a joke," someone said with a chuckle. My cousin Brandon even tossed me a mocking thumbs up. But when I opened the envelope, a small handwritten note fell out. It simply read, "This 10 is the key. Follow it, and you'll understand." I frowned. What was he talking about? A key to what? I didn't dare ask aloud. I just took the money, folded the note, and left, ignoring the stares drilling into my back like arrows. On the way home, I kept turning the note over in my pocket. I hadn't spoken to Grandpa much in the last few years, but I remembered how he used to say, "Some gifts aren't what they seem." I didn't know that would become a prophecy. I spent the next 2 days staring at the bill and the note. At one point, I nearly spent the money on groceries, but something stopped me. I remembered the way Grandpa used to take me to the old shed behind his farmhouse. We'd work on odd inventions to gather small gadgets and puzzle boxes. He loved mystery. He once told me, "If you ever need to find your way, follow the simplest clue." So I did something crazy. I went back to his house. Not to the front door, where my relatives were still gathering and sorting their new luxuries, but to the back. The shed was padlocked. I took out the key Grandpa had given me years ago. As a kid, it still fit. Inside, dust covered everything. But one thing stood out immediately, an envelope nailed to the inside of the workbench drawer with my name. My heart pounded. I tore it open. Inside was a hand-drawn map, some coordinates, and another note, "Use the 10. Buy the ticket. It'll take you where you need to go." I stared, confused. A ticket to what? Still, I followed the coordinates. It led me to a remote bus station on the edge of a ghost town 2 states away. The ticket booth was abandoned, but an old man sat near a vending machine. When I showed him the $10 bill and the map, he smiled faintly, nodded, and pulled out a bus token. "Your grandfather was a wise man," he said. "Told me you'd come." What was going on? Why did this feel like a treasure hunt from some mystery novel? The bus ride took hours. It finally stopped at a weathered lodge in the middle of nowhere. There were no signs, no lights, just the silhouette of trees and moonlight casting long shadows. A woman greeted me, said she was expecting me, and led me into a study that looked straight out of a Victorian novel. On the desk sat a leather-bound journal with Grandpa's initials. I opened it, my fingers trembling. Page after page was filled with handwritten notes, sketches, and diagrams, his secret inventions, his failed ideas, and most importantly, a plan. A plan he had spent the last decade developing to create a new type of sustainable energy device, completely clean and shockingly simple. He'd kept it hidden from the rest of the family because he knew they would patent it for profit, not purpose. And now he was passing it to me, the one they all mocked, the one they assumed was forgotten. A USB was tucked inside the journal cover. On it were schematics, simulations, and a video message from Grandpa himself in the grainy footage. He smiled and said, "If you're watching this, you took the $10 seriously. That means you're ready." They never were. They don't see beyond the surface. You do. I couldn't believe it. He had trusted me with something revolutionary, something world-changing, I spent the next 6 months working with a small group of engineers Grandpa had once mentored. Most had fallen out of touch with the family, but remembered Grandpa's genius. We refined the designs, tested prototypes, and even secured a provisional patent using my name. I wanted to honor his wishes. We didn't go public immediately. Instead, we partnered with a nonprofit energy foundation, one Grandpa secretly funded. For years, when we finally unveiled the technology, a device that could power an entire home using basic kinetic energy harvested from simple movement, it caused a ripple in the energy world. Headlines began to swirl. A known engineer unveils potential energy breakthrough. My phone rang non-stop. Journalists, tech investors, activists. My relatives watched it all unfold with growing disbelief. Brandon texted me, "Wait, is this related to Grandpa's work?" I didn't respond. Not yet. I needed them to see. And soon they would. The energy conference was held in New York. I was invited to speak on stage about the invention. When I walked onto the stage, dressed in a suit I bought with my own money, the applause felt like thunder. I began my presentation by showing a photograph of me and Grandpa, covered in grease and smiling in front of the old shed. I told the story, the $10, the note, the journey, and when I said, they mocked it. They mocked me, but I followed the clue. The crowd erupted. I didn't name names, but my relatives knew who I meant. The cameras caught it all. My cousins, who once laughed at my inheritance, now tried to reach me for interviews, partnerships, and dinner meetings. One even said, "We always knew you had something special," but I remembered every scoff, every laugh. And I wasn't going to forget that after the conference, our invention was featured in international media. Universities wanted to license it. Environmental groups endorsed it. Even the government reached out for collaboration. But I made sure every contract honored Grandpa's vision: affordable, clean energy accessible to poor and rural communities first. I visited schools and villages where we installed the first units for free. One kid hugged me and said, "Now I can study at night." That moment meant more than any inheritance. One evening, back at my apartment now upgraded, not because of wealth, but purpose, I found another letter. It had been delayed in the mail. It was from Grandpa. He'd written it months before he died. In it, he wrote, "Legacy isn't measured in dollars. It's measured in how you carry forward light. You were always my light." The $10 were never about money. It was a test of vision. You passed. I cried for an hour, not out of sadness, but out of overwhelming gratitude. Now, every year on the anniversary of his passing, I return to the shed. It's been turned into a museum dedicated to his life's work. Visitors walk through displays of his inventions, journals, and the original $10 bill framed on the wall. And below it, the note that started it all. This 10 is the key. Follow it. Families come from all over to see what can be built from a seed of belief. And every tour begins the same way I tell them. Sometimes the world gives you exactly what you need, hidden in something that looks worthless. You just have to believe enough to follow the path. People ask if I've forgiven my family. The truth, I've moved beyond them. I didn't do this to prove anything to them. I did it because someone believed in me when it mattered most. That belief changed my life, and now it's changing the world. So when people hear my story, they always ask, "What would you have done if you spent the $10 on lunch?" I smile and say, "Then the world would have lost a miracle." It wasn't just a bill. It was a doorway, and while my family counted money, I counted meaning. Today, they live with their cars, homes, and investments, but I live with purpose. My company, Tenfold Energy, now operates in over 20 countries, bringing clean power to places where candles used to be the only light. And it all started because one man chose not to leave behind just wealth but wisdom. So the next time someone mocks your small beginning, your ad gift, your $10, remember, what they laugh at today might change the world tomorrow. And sometimes being underestimated is the biggest gift of all.